Over the last 2 decades, the United States has carried out airstrikes and bombings across multiple countries in the Middle East and Africa, often in the name of counterterrorism, nonproliferation, or regime change, leaving behind a trail of complex consequences and international scrutiny. The bombing campaigns began in earnest with Iraq, under President George W. Bush, following the 2003 invasion. The U.S. cited weapons of mass destruction and ties to terrorism, though no WMDs were found. The prolonged conflict toppled Saddam Hussein, but plunged Iraq into years of sectarian violence, a devastating insurgency, and the rise of ISIS. Global reaction was sharply divided. Allies like the UK joined the effort, but major powers such as France, Germany, and Russia opposed the war, and millions protested worldwide. In Afghanistan, U.S. bombings began in 2001 under Bush as part of Operation Enduring Freedom, launched in response to 9/11. The goal was to dismantle al-Qaeda and remove the Taliban from power. Under President Barack Obama, airstrikes increased, including drone campaigns targeting Taliban leaders and al-Qaeda operatives. Despite over 2 decades of war, the Taliban eventually regained control in 2021 after the U.S. withdrawal. Globally, the war was initially supported, but enthusiasm waned as civilian casualties mounted and nation-building faltered. In Pakistan, drone strikes under Obama became the centerpiece of counterterrorism efforts in the tribal belt, targeting militants across the Afghan border. One such strike in 2011 killed Osama bin Laden in Abbottabad. However, the campaign drew harsh criticism from Pakistan's government and international rights groups due to repeated civilian deaths and perceived violations of sovereignty. Moving west, Libya became another flashpoint in 2011, when the Obama administration joined NATO airstrikes to enforce a UN-mandated no-fly zone. The intervention led to the toppling of Muammar Gaddafi, but Libya descended into civil war, and the once stable state became fragmented among militias and rival governments. The global reaction was mixed. While some hailed the protection of civilians, others warned of another Iraq-style collapse. In Syria, airstrikes began under Obama in 2014 to combat ISIS, and later continued under President Donald Trump and President Joe Biden. Trump notably ordered a missile strike in 2017 after a chemical weapons attack blamed on Assad's forces. U.S. involvement in Syria has remained controversial, with critics arguing the strikes violated international law without congressional approval, while others pointed to the effective degradation of ISIS capabilities. In Yemen, the U.S. began drone strikes under Bush, expanded heavily under Obama, and supported Saudi-led coalition bombings under both Obama and Trump, often targeting Houthi rebels accused of ties to Iran. But the U.S. role in Yemen drew widespread condemnation for contributing to what the UN called the world's worst humanitarian crisis, with tens of thousands killed and famine gripping millions. In Somalia, successive administrations, Bush, Obama, Trump, and Biden, have authorized airstrikes against al-Shabaab militants, often via drones. While the U.S. claims many high-value targets were neutralized, rights groups highlight repeated incidents where civilians were killed in remote villages. The strikes have drawn little sustained global outrage but have fueled anti-American sentiment in parts of East Africa. And now, in 2025, President Donald Trump, in his second term, has launched airstrikes on Iran's nuclear infrastructure, targeting Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan, claiming a preemptive defense against Tehran's alleged nuclear ambitions and missile threats. The operation, carried out with B-2 stealth bombers, has been described by Trump as very successful, but Iranian leaders have vowed retaliation, and the world is on edge. Russia and China have condemned the action, while NATO allies have called for restraint. Protests have erupted across the region, and oil prices are surging, amplifying fears of a wider war. Across all these campaigns, the U.S. has often cited national security, nonproliferation, and humanitarian intervention as justifications. Yet, each case has left behind a murky legacy, raising deep questions about sovereignty, civilian casualties, regional stability, and America's role in shaping the modern Middle East and Africa. From Baghdad to Kabul, Tripoli to Tehran, the aftershocks of U.S. bombs continue to ripple across generations.